Alright, hello guys, what is up? Welcome to another episode of US Geography Made Simple. If you've been following my previous videos, you probably know that for the next episodes, I'll be going back and explaining in depth about some of the topics that we've only briefly gone over in the US Regions series. So, for these first few videos, I decided to explore a fun and relatively easy and interesting topic, the Outer Banks. So without further ado, let's begin. So let's first define the Outer Banks. Sure, the Atlantic coast has tons of barrier islands, but which islands are the ones that make up the Outer Banks? Well, there's a bunch of different definitions, but the most commonly used one includes everything from Corova Beach on the Virginia and North Carolina border, shown right here, to Ocracoke Island in the south, shown right here. This is also the definition that the official tourism website for the Outer Banks uses. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's move on to location. The location of the Outer Banks is pretty interesting. First of all, to the north, it's connected to mainland Virginia. Yes, it's connected, so the upper part of the Outer Banks is actually a peninsula. To the south and to the east is the Atlantic Ocean, and to the west is mainland North Carolina, the Albemarle Sound, and the Pamlico Sound. Unlike the Atlantic Ocean, the Albemarle and Pamlico Sounds are made up of relatively fresh or brackish water, since it's basically the mouth of so many rivers, such as the Chowan River, the Alligator River, and the Tar River, just to name a few. Next up is formation and early history. So how did the Outer Banks form? While this is not extremely clear, most people agree that these barrier islands formed about 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, or around the time of the last ice age. And even though this might sound like a long time, it's still extremely young compared to a lot of other things, such as the Appalachian Mountains, which formed almost 500 million years ago. The Outer Banks most likely started out as dunes that grew bigger and bigger over the years due to deposition from rivers, but then became submerged by rising ocean waters. So just to clarify, the sea levels back then were way lower than sea levels now, since a lot of the water was trapped in glaciers. Finally, through the waves, the Outer Banks were pushed closer and closer to the mainland, and got up to where they are today. Yeah, so that's about it for formation. Let's move on to early history. The first people to set foot on the Outer Banks were none other than the Native Americans, who came here about 1,000 years ago. 500 years later, in the 1500s, explorers from countries in Europe, such as Spain and Italy, came and mapped out the region, and later that century the colony of Roanoke was established as the first English colony in the New World, although it eventually fell to reasons which we still do not know to this day. Finally, I'll briefly go over the regions of the Outer Banks. This is pretty important because for the next 4 videos I'll go over each individual region pretty thoroughly. Region 1 is the northernmost region, or the Upper Beaches. This region is different from the other regions since it's not an island and just an extremely long and narrow peninsula. Region 2 is Roanoke Island, which is a small but populated island between the Upper Beaches and mainland North Carolina. Region 3 is Hatteras Island, which looks like a hockey stick or a bird's foot. And lastly, Region 4 is Ocracoke Island, the southernmost and most remote part of the Outer Banks. Alright, and that will do it for today's video. I hope you found it interesting, learned something new, and stay tuned for the next video. Peace out.